Hello, hikers. Green Giant here, one of your hosts. We keep making episodes of Stories from the Trail because listeners like you keep going to patreon.com/storiesfromthetrail where they can support the show. Be one of those listeners. Tonight, we're going to take a little break from Long Distance Hiker School and give you a conversation that we had back in November with Daniel White, a.k.a. the Blackalachian, or Blackalachian, depends on where you're from. Daniel just finished biking the Underground Railroad Trail. We talked about that and a whole bunch more. Let's just get to it. Sit back, relax. This is Stories from the Trail.
Exactly, but back then it was like you were literally in the newspaper if you did it.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us were in the newspaper anyway.
Speak for yourself, Gary.
No, seriously.
I know I was.
God.
Yeah.
I was in the newspaper, on the news, on the channel.
I didn't mean it like that.
It's Gary, and people write about me because I write other things.
Hey, Gary.
No, but here's the thing though. Like literally any person who hikes the AT could just, and you see this a lot. You just go, contact your hometown newspaper. You see an awful lot of, just Google hometown boy hikes AT, and you will get like 4,000. 4,000 mostly white faces staring back at you is what you get. How's that for a transition into?
Oh, it's a great transition because it's accurate.
Yeah. So we have two Daniels on the line today. One is Daniel Pitts, who's with us often. You can tell it's him because his microphone is tucked up in between his cheek and gum like a pinch of chaw.
Am I doing it again?
You're doing it again, Daniel.
You do it all the time.
I'm wiping stuff. I had the sink on. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I can mute my microphone if y'all wanted to get into it.
Well, yeah, and feel free to unmute at any time, just so that we don't have to listen to you eating potato chips or folding laundry while. Yeah, so this is one of the tricky things to deal with as the number of people on our call continue to grow, but it's a good problem to have. So we have another Daniel on the line, Daniel White, who is known famously on the internet and on the trail as the. So I'll tell you what. Let's just jump right into the controversy. What do you say? Let's just immediately let's start talking about stuff that's going to divide the crowd. Is it Blackalachian or Blackalachian?
Oh man, that depends on where you land on the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to start no fights. I don't want any problems. I know down where I'm from, we call it Blackalachian.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I say too. Now, I know where you're from. You're from Asheville, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Asheville. About 5 minutes away from the Biltmore Estate. Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually out in Candler right now.
Oh man, is it snowing up there?
In some of the higher elevations, there's definitely, there's rime ice up on Mount Pisgah right now. And, we had some flurries last night, but nothing that I would call snow, being originally from, up where they say Appalachian. Used to come from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, y'all get the real snow. Yeah.
Yeah, we got real snow.
Yeah, when I was just finishing up this last trip, man, it was getting kind of hairy up there in that area up there by Erie, Pennsylvania, and Buffalo. It was getting kind of nasty.
Yeah, the snow came early this year.
So Daniel or Blackalachian, the lady you just heard speaking, that's Voldemort.
Hi.
Voldemort is Megan. She's our original co-host.
My name's Megan, aka Voldemort.
Yeah, I think we're up to about 5 co-hosts now, but Megan's the original.
Okay, good to meet everybody in the group, man. I was stepped in on a pretty heavy conversation, man. I just wanted to give my condolences to the people that lost family members. I know that can be tough, man. But good thing about being from this trail, being a part of this community now, man, you're never alone. Crazy Larry, man, you a legend in this thing. You never alone. I just want you to know that, man. So, always reach out. You got plenty of people that you can reach out to. Just want you to just put that out there real quick.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, right on. All right. So Daniel, let's get to it. Let's talk about a few things. So there's a lot of things that can be assumed based on what we already know about you, because you've got some really popular YouTube videos. There's a lot of articles written about you, and this is because it was 2017 was the year that you hiked, right?
Correct.
Okay. And while you were hiking, you made a pretty big deal out of calling attention to the lack of. I think, basically the way you put it was a lack of people of color on the trail is, which is safe to say. Anybody who's ever been on the trail goes, yeah, of course. We already, that's obvious. Yeah. I think what you said, one of the first hikers who encountered you called you a rarity. What is it like? What's that feel like to be called a rarity or to be a rarity?
I don't know. So it's a kind of, I guess, a weird feeling, but it comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of, it wasn't like he was saying it to be rude. It was saying it to just state the obvious. He was just stating reality. So I don't know. It just kind of let me know where I was at then. I was like, oh, okay. But I knew, most Black people didn't hike. So I was like, okay, well, I got it. It's just one of those things. But
right.
I don't know. It wasn't a big deal.
Okay, so you grew up in Asheville. I know the roughly the part of town that you're talking about. Were you did you grow up in mostly a Black neighborhood, or were you the only Black kid in school, or what was your experience like growing up?
Well, Asheville's pretty mixed when it comes to that. Like I went to Reynolds High School. It's predominantly white, but there's a lot of Black folks there. Asheville's kind of mixed to the same thing. Asheville's pretty cool. It's just different. Asheville is one of those towns now is getting known for, like beer city, that kind of thing. It's just the brewery town of America now. But it's a nice place to grow up. It's a pretty good mix of people. You got your upper class side on Biltmore Estate and like right around Biltmore Estate. So like across the street, it's a dividing street. Hendersonville Road is Biltmore Forest. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a place where growing up, you just don't go over there because you're probably going to get pulled over there. But my neighborhood where I grew up, Shiloh, was right across the street, which is the Biltmore House was built by slaves, and Biltmore Forest was pretty much built by slaves, the golf course and all that kind of stuff. And then the slaves moved basically across the street over to Shiloh. So it has a rich history like that. But it's kind of like middle class, still middle class. It's not, just poverty stricken. It's just, regular neighborhood thing.
Okay. So, what do you remember about your first hike?
Oh man, well, the AT was pretty much, I guess you can say, my first hike. As far as like anything like strenuous along, I did a couple pre-hikes out here at Crowder's Mountain, right out here in Gastonia, right outside of Charlotte, where I live now. But before that, I had never really hiked a day in my life, and I've been looking at those beautiful mountains in Asheville. If anyone's ever visited, you can just see like you're just surrounded by mountains everywhere, and you like an hour away from the trail. Mm-hmm. I just had never hiked, and so once I hit the AT, that was pretty much my first hike, man, and it changed my life. To say the least. I'm still learning lessons from the AT to this day.
What was it about the AT specifically that you decided to go there to start?
Oh man, I had I had heard about the Appalachian Trail, but I had no idea what it was. And just so happened my cousin, he does a lot of hiking and stuff and outdoors kind of stuff. And I was just going through it on social media a lot, just the vision, this stuff we see every day. And I was letting it get the best of me. And I was just kind of just going through it. And I was like, man, I wonder if I can survive in the woods. Because I always had like a love for shows like Man versus Wild and stuff like that. I was like, I wonder if I can do that kind of stuff. And I put it on Facebook one day, and he was like, go hike the AT. And I looked it up, and I think about 3 months later, I was at Springer.
Did you have any friends like growing up, or anybody like that introduced you into not necessarily hiking, but just learning about the outdoors, like watching those shows, watching stuff about being out in the wilderness, or is it something you kind of stumble upon on your own?
Well, my parents, we always been like heavy fishermen and stuff like that. So like, my mom, we go out bass fishing. My dad, he used to take me out bass fishing when we were younger, and they were still together. So I always been that aspect of the outdoors, just running to some lakes and going through the backwoods to find a nice lake that ain't nobody fished out. So that was my first, I guess, introduction to the outdoors and the woods and things like that. I don't know. I like watching shows, So once I stumbled on Man vs. Wild, I was like, oh wow, this is cool. And Survivor Man, I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. It's different. Like, and I have learned that just doing these type of trips and these journeys, the people that's in town that you meet and everything, they're always like just kind of impressed by somebody getting out and chasing that dream. I think that's just like human. Everybody just loves that right there. Everybody want to do it, but the 9 to 5 and the rigmarole gets you just kind of stuck and locked in.
So one of the things that you said that just struck me was that you wanted to just basically see, hey, can I live in the woods? You mentioned Survivor Man and things like that. You ever want to? I mean, have you tried anything a little more difficult or challenging than backpacking as far as the wilderness survival stuff goes? You ever done any bushcraft, or can you start a fire with found materials or?
Well, I tried, because I had tried out for a pretty famous show, and I was going to go on it, but only thing I'm reluctant is it's kind of hard to practice bushcraft around this area. I mean, people catch you out cutting down trees or something, man, they're going to call the police immediately. And just so happened the place that I tried to do it was like a nature preserve, and the guy caught me just like chopping away at some dead, some felled trees, and he's like, you can't be doing that. And I was like, oh yeah, he's on his way to the ranger station right now. So, yeah, it's just kind of hard to do, man. So I haven't had an experience to try it out yet, but definitely that's something that's on the menu pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever want, I see someone asked in the chat if it was Naked and Afraid. If you do ever want to go on that show, one of the casting people from that show tried to get me to do that show when I was hiking the trail. So I'm friends with her on Facebook.
Nah, man.
So let me know.
I can't really speak on it. I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
But
well, I didn't sign any agreements, so there you go, Naked and Afraid. Take that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this, Megan? Is it the same casting director who recently contacted our good friend Odie about being on the show?
I was not aware that Odie was contacted.
Oh yeah, Odie has already. Odie has proceeded far enough in the selection process that he's no longer allowed to talk about it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of
make it that far. I don't know, but is it on Facebook? Is it something I can creep on?
If you follow Odie on Facebook, Daniel, you know who we're talking about? Odie?
Haven't been on Facebook.
Yeah,
I'll go there.
Hiker Yearbook.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep.
I'll just take a quick peek at the face place. I logged in for the first time in a while just today to go through our group, add some more people, that sort of thing.
What'd you say, Larry?
About Odie?
I don't know. I can't tell what you're saying.
I think he asked, what about Odie?
Oh, yeah. We're talking about Odie auditioning to be on, the TV show Naked and Afraid.
Okay, well, he came up with like an advertisement or something like that today, and I reposted it on Crazy Larry's group,
Oh, yeah, that was something else. He was just in a commercial for Lightheart
Gear.
Yeah, Lightheart
Gear. Gear dresses?
Yeah, he was wearing one of Judy's dresses in the commercial.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. I reposted it, yeah.
Yep.
In Crazy Larry's group. That was funny. I put on there, I said, I think Odie looks hot in a hiking dress, even though he does have a beard. Probably get pissed off about that one.
No, I think he'd take that. I think he'd like that. That's good stuff, Larry.
Yeah, he's cool.
Lightheart Gear makes kilts and stuff now?
No, it's he's wearing a lady's dress. It's an actual made for a woman.
Yeah. That's good.
I might have to get me one of those. I got a nice trip coming up that would go awesome with.
What do you got coming up?
I can't speak too much on it at this second. I gotta keep that one on the reps. The other guys might be kill me, man.
Oh man,
yes, it's a collaboration. This is gonna be a nice trip, though. I'll announce it as soon as possible, as soon as I'm able to.
You know what makes for a really great podcast guest? not being allowed to talk about stuff.
I can talk about it. If it involves other people, I don't want to put, I can't spill the beans. I don't want to be the first one to spill the beans.
After the break, we will be speaking with the former director of the NSA and a man with no mouth.
Yep. We have ways of finding out, my friend.
I've been watching a lot of Monty Python lately, so expect some very silly things to come out of my mouth tonight. Okay, so
It's not me.
So okay, we can't talk about your upcoming trip, and your AT trip has been fully documented in your YouTube channel. And, there, like we said earlier, multiple articles have been written, about you,
True.
So, yeah. So, bask in that for a moment. Oh, okay. But I want to talk about the thing that you just finished, because I think this is really special. A lot of people, after they do their long distance hike, and a lot of people have talked about this on the show before, myself included. One of the first things people say to you after you finish this long hike is, "What's next?" Like, you just have to, there's this constant need for, people expect you to outdo yourself. But I think what you just did kind of does outdo yourself in terms of, not necessarily scope, but in, the amount of history that you just, absorbed and shared with us and experienced. Tell us a little bit about what you just did, because you know more about it than me, and I should stop talking now.
Man, after the AT, I just wanted to try something different. As everybody knows, once you do the AT or the PCT or the CDT, you want to go for the Triple Crown. That's the next thing for most hikers. So I just wanted to try something different, because I had so many race conversations on the AT. Most of them were good, productive conversations. Some of them maybe not so much. And it just got me to thinking, like, man, I want to try something different, and maybe start some conversations, because these are important conversations that I was having on the AT. So I said, I maybe want to continue these conversations in a different way,
right? And
find something that can mesh, history with the love of the outdoors, and also get me out the house for a little while. So I did a lot of research, and I was talking to one of my guys, Steele. And he was like, about like, something with more meaning to it. And I started doing a little research, and I found the Underground Railroad bike trail, which is put together by the Adventure Cycling Association, I think. They came up with a few years ago, about maybe 10 or 15 years ago, some heritage routes. They do the Trans-American Trail, coast to coast thing, but they got one now for the Trail of Tears. And then I stumbled on the one for the Underground Railroad, which loosely follows the route that Harriet Tubman and other slaves would take on the route to freedom. Starts down in Mobile, Alabama, ends in Owen Sound, Ontario, Canada, which I didn't go all the way to Owen Sound, Ontario. Cut it a little bit short. Yeah, I stopped at the border. Just the weather situation, and just kind of just ready to go home, to be honest. But it was an amazing trip, man. Being a new thing, I hadn't rode a bike in 20 years, but being from Asheville, man, I figured I knew how to ride a bike. I've been riding up those mountain hills all my life. So I figured it's just like the AT, man.
Yeah. It's
the main thing is just mental.
It's real easy to get back into, it's like, I'm trying not to say it's like riding a bike, but it's like a thing that you're good at that comes back.
So it's just, but it was, to be honest, it was way easier than the AT. So anybody who's like the AT, man, pat yourself on the back, because it's 10 times easier to me. Maybe to someone else, maybe, but as far as like strenuous on your body, way less work on your body, because you're carrying the weight on your bike instead of on your back.
Okay.
So
that sounds really nice.
So I watched a couple of your videos, and I think you said that on day 3 you were hit by a truck. I don't know if that's easier.
God. What?
Yeah, but hit by a truck.
AT, it's really hard because you get hit. What? That doesn't make any sense. You get hit by cars?
Yeah, no.
AT more difficult Railroad. If you're getting hit. Oh, okay. Okay, this is a different one.
Yeah. The Underground
I'm just terrified.
Railroad
That's why I don't bike. I'm terrified of cars.
Man, that's why I don't bike at night, because I'm worried about the drunk driver. That's one of my main concerns. And then you got to worry during the
Teenage
day
driver.
about the Texan driver. Or, that's the worst. The Texan driver.
Mhm.
They all ages. So that's a different variable. I would probably rather be around black bears than around a bunch of vehicles. But you got your trade offs. So it's just one of those things.
You're obviously okay now, but
Yeah, but it was just a side swipe. He didn't hit me hard. I
just
was
a
walking
side
up a logging road, this super busy logging road, and I was like going up these couple last pretty big climbs, and I was like, okay, I pedaled one, and the last one I was like, I'm gonna push this over top of this hill, and I'll be cruise on into town. And that'll be the end of my day. And I was headed up the hill, and I was pushing the bike. It was off the road and everything. I was trying to stay as far away from the road as possible, so the bike was closer to the road than I was, luckily.
Right.
And the guy just decided me with the mirror, hit me with the mirror, but it threw me all off in the air like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air kind of thing. It had me kind of scared.
God.
But the guy, he backed up, and he was more terrified than I was. And he's like, "You need a ride?" So he gave me a ride in town, a couple miles or whatever. And by the time we got into town, like all these first responders was coming back the other way. And he was scared, looking in his rearview mirror, and he was trying to like small talk me and like try not to get me to pay attention to all these ambulances and all these police cars flying past us. He's like thinking they're not coming for me. I'm like, yeah, I know they're coming for me, guy. But as long as my bike was okay, everything was okay, we good. He bought me a beer, and then I went on about my way.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it was cool.
A loop. I mean, that's terrifying to me.
But that was good.
Or terrifying. People in cars are kind of scary.
Yeah.
Bears, I can handle.
I needed that though. That was my third day, so I needed that because that set the tone. So that made me way more aware, and that made me ride my bike way more defensively after the fact. So after that, I'm just gonna ride on the shoulder or ride out your way. No, I'm gonna get in the middle of the road, and you're just gonna have to wait and get around me because I'm not gonna get hit. So.
When we used to live in Savannah, Georgia, and when we lived there, my wife just didn't have a car because work was a couple miles away and it was a very bicycle friendly place. But she still, the two things that she always complained about, and I thought rightfully so, was drivers who just aren't watching out for bikes, and dogs.
Oh,
I didn't even think
the dogs were serious. Man, I maced about 5 dogs. And then after that, I got the mailman pepper spray. So I hated it.
Pepper spray? Is it like different than normal pepper spray?
I think it's maybe a little less strength, like a little weaker strength.
Is
maybe.
mailman pepper spray what you spray when you have an aggressive postal carrier?
It's called Zap, I think it is.
Gary, come on, let the expert talk right now.
Okay, I was hoping that you would pull your microphone out of your mouth and say something.
Funny guy. No, I'm a mailman. They issue a special dog spray.
Oh, you're a mailman.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, so you know the struggle, yeah. So I mean, just coming through those like backwoods Alabama towns and those country roads and those farm areas, man, nobody's keeping their dog on the leash.
Where there should be a million beware of dog signs up on everything.
Yeah, but I mean, when you come around the corner flying and next thing you know, you see a dog doing a beeline towards you, like at a diagonal. It's like, oh man, what am I gonna do? But after a while, man, I just you just get tired of like trying to outrun them, and you get tired of spraying them. You just get off the bike, you just yell at them, and they kind of back up most of the time. You just kind of shame them, just like the owner would do.
Shame the dog. It's like dealing with bears or wildlife. You learn after your first couple encounters what to do and what works.
Yeah. It's always, you always got potential for that wild card, that bear that's going to charge you. And then you're like, oh, all this stuff they told me that would work, it's not working, They told me on the AT that if you just stand up and make yourself big, the bears will run from you. And I was telling them, I don't know why y'all telling me this lie. Maybe they see me and they see me black and they like, oh, that's just one of us. He's a little emaciated, but they looking and why you got on clothes, buddy? You one of us. And so they stand up and look at me and, sniff me and stuff. So yeah, me and bears, I don't know. But I'm not terrified of them. I'm still gonna get out and enjoy the outdoors. But yeah,
you gotta respect the wildlife.
Definitely.
Always.
So let's talk about some of the historic places that you visited on your bike trip. You one of the things that I thought was rather poignant that you mentioned is pretty early on. You had to cycle past and through a lot of cotton fields.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What was what's that? What does that feel? What does that feel like? What's going through your mind as you're seeing these places?
Oh man, I just kind of get that flashback, that cut scene, and you just thinking like, just people just working there, working those fields, man. And because it's like you come through and that's all you see from either side, just a sea of cotton. It's like, wow, man. And then when you think about the history of cotton and slavery and everything, you're like, wow, like these plants should grow red. Imagine if they just grew red, like, it's just a different feeling, man. So having to come through a lot of those places and kind of try to put yourself in that mind state, even though you could never be in that mind state because you're not getting chased by dogs, your life is not on the line, that type of thing. And so it's different. You can try to put yourself there, but you never get close. But I mean, it was just a different feeling. Like when I went to, I was actually off the trail. Like I was like 2 roads off the trail, and I happened to just ride by this church, and I stopped there, and I just taking a little quick break, and I seen a sign that said Underground Railroad stop. So I went in the church, and just so happened that was an actual Underground Railroad stop. I got a tour of the place by the pastor, and he took me downstairs in the basement in the crawl space where actual slaves would hide out and then make their way, up into the streets and to freedom and on further north or whatever. So that was a place. It was just like, wow, I'm standing in a place where I know people have been and been like, it was just powerful. It's really kind of hard to explain. Just kind of hard to put in words, I guess. Then being able to stop at Harriet Tubman's home. After I left Niagara Falls, my mother, me and her drove from there to Auburn, New York, where Harriet Tubman lived out the rest of her life and had I think a 32 or 35 acre farm. And she had a home for the elderly there where she let people come live out their years and everything. And they had a Bible in there. I got to take a private tour of that. It was just amazing, man, just to see what people went through. And then I stopped in Ripley, Ohio at the abolitionist John Rankin's house up on the hill, which is a elderly white guy. He had a pretty big family. They all were pretty much abolitionists. And I think he had a price on his head at one time. And just to think about back in the 1800s, he didn't have to risk his life or his family or his safety or anything to help anybody. He was well off. He was cool. He was chilling. But he did, so it's like, that conjunction, like, and he worked with the guy, John P. Parker, who stayed further down in Ripley, close to the river, and they would work together in conjunction to get the slaves out of the Ohio River from crossing over into Kentucky into Ohio and things like that, and just show you like the power of the people. So that was one of the main I think things I took from this trip was just the power of people back in the 1800s. Like they were way stronger than us. Like we cry about everything now. Like, these people were like super strong. Like that's why when you see these 1800 pictures, everybody got like a frown on their face. They looking all austere and mean and stuff. Cause like, yeah, they freaking tough. Like you probably take your head off like right now. Like, and like we coming in and just everybody's just so offended and so soft nowadays, which some of it is warranted. A lot of it isn't,
I get upset when they don't have the sliced ham that I prefer at the grocery store. These guys had to go and kill their ham. I mean, I guess we still,
it's different.
We still do, but not, actually just right down the road from me, they do that.
Yeah.
Hey, so I want to ask you a rather simple question, one that should be a little easier to answer, I guess. Just to explain something, and we're going to do this for the benefit of a lot of our listeners. Most of the people I believe who are on the line or in the chat with us right now are either from the U.S. or Canada and are familiar with our history and know what the Underground Railroad is. But we actually have a lot of listeners overseas and people who might not be familiar with U.S. history as much as people who are with us here tonight. I would like, for you in your own words, just tell people who might not know what the Underground Railroad is.
Okay, well, the Underground Railroad is not actually a railroad. It was actually a system of routes for slaves that were enslaved in America to escape north to like the free territories, which were essentially like Canada was free. Most of the northern states were like free harbors where you can get up there and work. It was a lot of free black people up there that lived in them areas. So it was just a system to sneak. So people had to travel from whether it be Virginia or Alabama and head north through America, probably in the middle of the night, and stop along the way and stay at people's houses, stay in the crawl spaces, stay in barns, stay in the woods, and just kind of move by the cover of night and just make their way north to the free states. Just try to get to freedom. So it's not an actual underground railroad per se. It's just it's called a railroad, I guess, because the conductors, the people there, when you would get to certain spots and they would lead you to the next area. And there's not a lot of written history on this because it was mostly word of mouth. Because if you was caught with this type of information, you would be killed and tortured, and it just wasn't. It wasn't advantageous for you to write this stuff down because it would probably hurt the mission and probably a lot of people caught and killed. So just a way for slaves to escape,
So that that 5-minute explanation is probably about as much as most people get in American public school education too. Like I remember they told us what the Underground Railroad is, what it was for, why it was a good thing, why it was important. But your experience is just, how many days did it take for you to traverse the whole thing on two wheels?
49 days, the whole trip. I probably took about 7 zeros or something like that.
Okay.
7 days where I just didn't do anything. I got caught a couple days in Pennsylvania, rained out. But I was able to kick it with a couple men, like these old guys. It was cool. That's what traveling has done for me, man. And hopefully when I share these videos, people can kind of get a sense of that some guys came to my tent about like 8 o'clock at night, offered me some food. They would camp. They had a cabin right behind where I was camped at. And it was just raining for like 3 days on. And they was like, nah, man, come over here, I guess. And it's like 60 middle-aged white guys and just me, and we having a great time. And then after talking for these guys 2 or 3 days, we found out we got a lot in common. And a couple of those guys were electricians as I am. And, it's always common ground, but people don't see that because people don't get outside their little bubble. So it was just amazing to see that, man. So yeah, this trip was wild. I'm sorry I'm getting off on the tangent.
No, it's cool. That's what we like.
That is all right.
Yeah.
We like those. Yes.
So because it gives me ideas for questions. You mentioned videos on this trip.
Yes.
You're really not doing this just for you. I mean, at the root of it, you are like, you're living this and you're experiencing this, but I can tell just by what you've produced based on your AT experience that you're the sort of person who, I don't know, tell me if this is accurate. Here's how I feel, when I write or share my pictures. Like I experienced something, and I just wish that so many people could be there to see this. Like I want people to, experience it and learn it. And I think that you do the same thing. And
yeah.
So you just mentioned videos. You're doing this with your Underground Railroad trip as well, correct?
Correct. I filmed on my GoPro as well as my iPhone. I just actually bought a Mac this weekend, so I can start editing the videos. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it, man. Because like people, you have to understand, people that watch these AT videos and watch these outdoor videos, a lot of them are not even able to do this stuff. So that's their only view into this type of thing. Like some people are like maybe in a wheelchair, they can't hike the AT. A lot of the places they made in the AT, those new shelters, they handicap accessible. But yeah, you got to climb 2,000 feet to get up there. So it's not really accessible. So a lot of people just really can't experience this. So I want to share it with them. And like, like my people from home, like everybody that called me crazy, all my family and all my friends that like just don't get it at all, I can give them a glimpse to show you like this is what it actually is. And then now they're reaching out and they're saying, oh man, I wish I can go on the next trip, or what you got going on. It's like it's engaging people because the outdoors is beautiful. You can't beat it. I can take as many pictures and videos as I want, but I'm telling you, this is only like 25% of the beauty that you're gonna experience if you actually see it eye to eye. So that's just my hope, that it gets more people to think about going outside, instead of like, well, we're going to sit in and watch the movie, or we're going to go here, or just going to go where everybody always goes. No, go somewhere free outside, like, especially my Asheville friends, like, because I'm the only one that actually experienced this type of stuff. And I'm telling them, like, yo, it's like 45 minutes away. You can go see, like, most beautiful views ever.
Oh, people like plan their vacations and buy plane tickets and like come from around the world here, and we can just drive on up there anytime. It's I kick Katie's my wife, we kick ourselves for how many times we're like, no, I don't feel like driving up to the Parkway today. What? Are you serious? It's the most beautiful thing in the world.
You know how short of a drive it is from your house to the Parkway? I've done it. It's like it's no time at all.
It's like Megan not going to the Whites or something. Yeah.
They're like a good 3 or 4 hours from me. Because I now live in Maine. A more accurate thing would be to say it's like Megan never going to the beach. Oh, because I just don't.
That's right.
Wow, you live in Maine?
I do. I just moved from New Hampshire to Maine, so all up in the north, where it's all very, very white, both the people and the snow.
Man, hey, I love Maine snow. I mean, I like it. I like it up there. It's beautiful. That's New Hampshire and Maine. To me, hands down, the most beautiful part of the AT. To me,
I think to a lot of people, you get that a lot. People always say Maine is their favorite.
Favorite area, but I am also very biased.
So when
only like an hour drive from the AT, so I can't have. I need to not do the whole excuses. No excuses. To it's only an hour or something like that to get to the AT. True. Maybe 2, but that's not that bad. It's not that bad.
All right, so a lot of people post their videos, when they're hiking or going on some kind of a long trip like this. They post as they go. Or like they'll stop in town and they'll update people. You're doing this a little different. You have all of your footage. You're going to do it at the, you're at the end. Now you're going to put it together. You're going to release it serial style, like a series of, 20, 30 episodes, or do you have a plan? Is it too soon to tell?
No, I want to do it because, see, the AT videos, man, I had like 400 or 500 videos. So I kind of want to make them more digestible. So I want to kind of edit them down and make them episodes. I got to be like, my professional hiking friends like Redbeard and Bigfoot and Darwin. I got to get like these guys. They professional, nice production. So, if you're going to watch something, make it worth watching. But the only reason I that is because, I mean, it's like last year on AT, once I guess I start gaining a little bit of popularity, people start kind of chasing me down, which is a good thing because they really just trying to like, give you support and everything. But it's a kind of scary thing too, because you don't know these people and they're just kind of running up on you in the middle of the woods and hollering Blackalachian. Like, oh,
just run up on you in the middle of the woods.
This trip, I just wanted to record them and put them together when I got home because I wanted to get through this trip without having to stop and just chop it up with so many people because it would just take me too long. And on top of that, this being this type of trip that I was doing, Underground Railroad, with the state of the culture that we in today with division and stuff like that, I wanted to kind of protect my safety. So I didn't want to give people like my actual, location. So just in case somebody wanted to do something to me, I didn't want to give me giving a location. Hey, come do something to me,
Safety first.
Yeah, I kind of had to be wary about that, but I'm putting it together now. So hopefully I can get some subtitles and get it nice.
The Underground Railroad Trail, is this an established trail, like with a guidebook and a known route, or something you pieced together?
Oh no,
in terms of the cycling, that is.
Yeah, I got the maps from the Adventure Cycling Association.
Oh, you said that. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they got an established route. It's like 5 maps. But once I got on it, once I got to about, I guess, Tennessee, Kentucky, I started kind of trying to make my own route a little bit through some areas because I know some areas they take you through like those logging roads. And after the sideswipe incident, I was kind of scared to ride a lot of those logging roads. So I kind of started making my own route here and there just to get me on a little bit safer routes. But which they plan for that. So they mostly put you on the safest routes, but some of those logging roads I kind of took a little detour around and things like that,
Now, this, you might have already said this, but about how long is that
Oh, the whole trip. Per the maps is 2,000 miles. So I probably ended up about 18 and 1900 miles at the end because I rode the Ohio to Erie bicycle trail up all the way up through Ohio because it was just beautiful. They have anyone who lives in Ohio, you should get you a bike like immediately because that's a beautiful trail. It goes from I think down by Milton, Ohio. It has another connection over there in Cincinnati and goes up pretty much all the way to Cleveland. And it's pretty much just like, bike trail. So it keeps you off the road and everything. So that was a good little side trip for me. So I kind of got off the underground route right around there. It coincides with about 50 or 60 miles. Then it splits off, but I just kind of stayed on it, which took me up through Amish country and I met some pretty cool people up through there, so I don't have no regrets about that. So nice trip.
Woodbury in the chat is asking if you went through Cincinnati.
I was going to take a side trip to Cincinnati to go to Harriet Beecher Stowe's house, but I didn't because I think the weather was kind of bad around that area. So I just kind of kept it moving through there and pushed on through, met up with my sister who I hadn't seen in about 10 years. Met her in Columbus. So that was pretty good, good thing.
Crazy Larry says, this is a cool interview. I agree. It is.
I have to ask another data question because you might have already answered it. How long did this take?
49 days.
Yes.
Yeah, 49 days with about 7 days off, like 70 days. I had some friends. My friends came and met me in, I think, Hurricane Mills, Tennessee. They came from Knoxville a couple hours, so we took a couple days there and just kicked it. And so a couple days here and there.
It was like for fun stuff. It wasn't like you got an injury and had to take 7 days off.
No injuries. Thank God, no injuries.
That's amazing
really
because on
no
the AT, I think
bike.
everyone has an injury story of like, oh yeah, I had to take X number of days off for an injury. I'm just thinking, comparing it to the AT for people who might want to do something longer.
But I didn't have no injuries.
49 days isn't that bad.
Yeah, it was a lot quicker than AT. I took 190 days on the AT, but I didn't have any injuries. Yeah, I was 6.5 months. Yeah, I was just out there having the time of my life. I should have maybe stayed out there.
This week's shout out goes to audible.com, where you can get the audiobook version of Where's the Next Shelter, written and read by me. Audiobooks are a great way to enjoy your favorite hiking stories without having to take your eyes off the road. Think about it. You just found out that our hero is running across a field racing to get to his backpack before a bear does, but you've got to merge into traffic. Well, you've got a decision to make. You either find out what happens to your hero or don't crash your car. With an audiobook, you get to do both of those things at the same time. Where's the Next Shelter is the perfect audiobook to start with because it's free when you join Audible. Where's the Next Shelter is also the perfect audiobook to start with because it's read by me. And if you don't think that Gary Sizer has one of the best voices in hiking, you're probably listening to some other podcast right now. Either that or you have probably heard Keith Foskett speak. They don't let that guy in the frozen food section because his voice melts all the frozen stuff.
I would like to hear about some act of kindness that you experienced on this trip.
Oh man, where do I start? I got a few. Man, I think in Amish country, I can't remember the exact place in Ohio. I met this guy Dave. I was actually sitting down, about to eat my dinner. I was cooking my dinner at this baseball field. I was actually looking for a place to stealth camp because it was getting sort of dark around that area. Because this trip, you can't just pull over and camp anywhere. You kind of got to get in where you fit in and kind of find it where you find your spot. So getting kind of late, and I was like, maybe I'll camp right here at this baseball field somewhere. So the guy comes down and we get to talking about my trip and everything, and he's like, you know what? Well, I run this place. You can stay here. So he let me stay in the concession stand. He's like, well, we're about to close for the season, so anything you want out of here, you can have it, no problem. And like that's kind of like a kid's dream to be locked up in basically like a candy store, that kind of thing. So that next morning, took me to breakfast and everything. He had some electrical problems. I helped him check out and everything and try to get fixed for him. So that was one. Oh man, stopped at a gas station, talking to a guy. Thinking like an East Indian guy, telling him about the trip and everything. He's the owner of the gas station. He took $10 out the gas station, out the cash register to give it to me, just because he was like just impressed with the thing. Like
that's nice.
Maybe just I was going the wrong way one day. Lady stopped me, said, if you keep going that way, you're gonna run to a dead end. She throw your Miss Sherry. She's like, throw your bike in the back of the truck and everything. And come to find out, she's living, on the road, traveling campground to campground kind of thing. So she kind of got the lifestyle. Gave me a ride. We had breakfast and everything. She talked to my mom, all that kind of stuff. Man, I met people like that along the way, like the guys that I kicked it with, that would camp behind me. I mean, that would, in the cabin behind me when I was tenant and everything. I kicked it with them for the whole weekend. I just all the way up along the trail, that kind of stuff. And it was from people that had no idea who the Blackalachian was. There was just people like, oh, you out here traveling? Oh, okay, well, let me show you some love, that kind of thing. So act of kindness, man. When people see you out doing something big like that, they with it, man. And what I realize is like, you come through these little sleepy towns, sometimes you probably making these people week or a month or a year or something just to have something to talk about. Like, I met this guy, he's coming through doing this crazy guy, or whatever. So it's just like along the way. Every mile I put in, it was that, so it was just amazing.
About the Appalachian Trail, and we talk a lot about the kindness on the AT, but we don't necessarily talk about, and on hiking trails too, but we don't necessarily talk about the kindness that you experience on other that's a long distance trail. Mm-hmm. It's not a foot trail. Well, I mean, it was, but it's now used as a bike path, or this is a bike path. So it's nice to hear that, because I sometimes connect the kindness from strangers in my head to my own experience on the trail. And I don't know if anybody else does this, because in the real world, I sometimes don't see a lot of it. So it's nice to hear those other stories that, hey, it's out there.
Yeah, it's
when you're doing something that's you're following your dream, or you're trying to tackle some sort of project. But
yeah, I'm
guessing that since you went mostly through Ohio and that part of the north, that you didn't make it over east, like did you make it through South Jersey?
No, it went from Ohio up into like Erie, right around the corner, Erie, Pennsylvania. Just followed basically the Lake Erie up all the way up to Buffalo. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, when you said Amish country, I got a little excited, because I'm from Western Pennsylvania originally. We've got some Amish there, but you were in the Ohio Amish. Really good cheese. That's about all I know about the Amish.
Nah, good people, man. Yeah. I envy their lifestyle. I mean, it's just a simpler way of life, and they're having no problems. But I did see a couple of them on bikes, and I did see a couple of them shopping in Walmart. I was kind of, thrown off a little bit by that. I was wondering, what were they shopping in Walmart for? That's what I was trying to figure out, like, what was the food? Because I was wondering, I was packing up my food, and we were having a conversation. I was like, I wonder, they looking at me, and they looking at these ramens, and they like, what is this guy eating? So it's different, but I envy their lifestyle, because it's simple, man. It's nice, less stress.
You're an electrician. My brother did a little bit of electrical contracting work back in the day, and being from that part of Pennsylvania, often he'd find himself working on electrical projects in houses with like Amish people doing the wiring and electrical work. And I was like, I don't know if those are the guys you want doing the.
True indeed.
You know what I mean?
That's
I want to pick up on something that you just said.
No more ridiculous than having a reality star run the fucking government. Sorry.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. That's a hairy question. Tough question. Yeah.
I'm going to derail this conversation and bring it back to what we always talk about every episode, at least once: food.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were going to go for poop.
Well, pooping can be next, Gary, but let's go to food first because he did mention ramen, right, Daniel? You mentioned you were picking up ramen in Walmart.
True.
What else did you eat? Is it similar to an Appalachian Trail diet? Or, I mean, since you're in towns, you eating in towns a lot. What was your take on that?
Well, I was sponsored by Mountain House. Well, I'm a Mountain House ambassador at this moment. So they hooked me up a lot. So for the most part, I ate Mountain House. But when I wasn't eating Mountain House, like when I would stop through the towns, like during the day, I would probably just grab me something real quick. I hate to admit this, but I did a lot of McDonald's eating. It's just, they got the Wi-Fi. I mean, you just can't escape
Browns
it,
are
man.
so good.
You know, you just can't escape. So
delicious. And they serve them any time of the day. And they're open 24 hours, most of them.
So yeah, I was McDonald's it down, you know, because I mean,
hostel.
I was on a budget anyway. So if it wasn't McDonald's, it was Mountain House. And then towards the end, I had a bunch of Mountain House products at home, but by the time they got shipped to me, I probably would have been finished. So I didn't get them shipped. So then I think when I got like Northern Ohio, I just started getting chunky soups, which you would never carry on the AT on your back. You would never carry a can. So I was just carrying like 5 or 6 cans of, you know, chunky soups and no problems, you know, just because I'm not carrying on my back. So I would say a lot of snacks, a lot of M&Ms, man. I'm an M&M connoisseur. So
peanut or plain?
Peanut.
Oh, I thought yes was your answer.
Peanut. Yeah, both. Yeah, but peanut definitely because, you know, they say peanuts and peanut butter. You know, everybody eats peanut butter on the AT, so I figured, you know, I throw a little peanuts in there. You know, keep moving.
There you go.
Yeah, but you know, it's different. It was totally different from my diet on the AT. On the AT, for when I first started out, well, pretty much the whole way it was ramen, ramen, tuna. I didn't eat much mashed potatoes. Just not a super huge fan of those. But ramen and tuna definitely. Cheese, summer sausage. And then I carried a frying pan as well as my fishing pole. So I ate a lot of fish on the AT. I fished a little bit on this trail. Mostly southern parts like Kentucky. I did a little fishing. Tennessee, I did a little fishing. This time I took a telescoping fishing pole with me, so a little different. But yeah, last year on the AT, yeah, they dope. They pretty dope.
That's Travis hikes with one of those.
So yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I always try to get my fishing in, you know, just to keep that up. Because like when I first was going to hike the AT, and I said I was carrying a fishing pole, and I was putting in my videos, people, you'll never get a chance to fish. There's nowhere to fish on the AT, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I don't know what lakes, what AT you hike, but it's plenty of places to fish on the AT. Like,
you know how people say there's a bunch of water on the AT? Well, guess what lives in water?
Thank you.
Giardia.
Coming through the 100-mile, man.
Giardia.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, definitely that too.
Hey, did you take
coming through the 100-mile? I caught a 2-pound smallmouth in the 100-mile wilderness.
Oh.
I had a beach by myself. I cooked it on the beach, and just so happened I had just left White House Landing Hostel that morning, and I found a package of grits in the hiker box. So I had grits and fish in Maine, like on the beach by myself with a loon playing the soundtrack for me and a beautiful, oh man, it was like, that was one of my best days.
That sounds perfect.
In life.
Wait, was that at the Antlers?
Oh, it was
Antlers campsite?
It was like about 2 or 3 miles. Cause I flipped my hike from Gorham, New Hampshire and came back south. So it was about 2 miles, I guess, north of Antlers campsite. So I was totally by myself. Yeah, because I ran into some friends that I had hiked with the next day that were still coming north, and they were staying at the Antlers campsite, and I kicked it with them for a little while. But yeah, it's that spot like 2 or 3 miles north of Antlers campsite. Oh man, it's primo.
The whole area is just beautiful.
Did you bring your fishing pole with you when you did the Foothills Trail last year?
Oh no, I wish I did though. Yeah, it was a lot of places. Yeah, the Toxaway and all
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I wish I would have.
I,
It was around this time last year. It was actually right after Thanksgiving last year when I did the Foothills Trail. I got about 15 or 20 miles to finish up of it because I just getting through with the AT about 2 months before that. I was like, oh, I'm in prime shape. I do this trail in 3 days, no problem. It's only 77 miles. It's nothing. Man, I got out there. That trail whooped my butt, man. I was out there like 5 days, and I still wasn't finished. I was like, you know what? I think I need to go back.
Yeah, I confess I've been creeping on your social, and I saw your Foothills Trail. I think it was a video you made about while you were on the Foothills Trail, and it turns out you and I were there like just within a couple of days of each other. Like we practically almost ran into one another. It was right around that same time. The Foothills Trail holds a special place in my heart, just for being what it is. And it also holds a special place in the show's heart because Daniel, who we talked with earlier, Daniel, our mailman friend, did his first ever backpacking trip on the Foothills Trail. We did that together, and it was a beautiful place to go. But I would like to extend the invitation to you that if you ever want to go back and finish whatever those last 15 miles are, Asheville's on the way. So yeah. If you want a hiking buddy, I'd be happy to throw down some miles with you.
Yeah, man. I was actually because I hiked it with a couple of my friends that I had hiked on the AT with, and I had reached out to her. I was wanting to go finish it up last weekend, for Thanksgiving, just to get that year, little run in, but we just couldn't make it happen. Which when I was telling you guys, like when I heard you guys talking earlier about, different people hiking, like before hiking became super popular, I was able to hike the AT last year for a long while with my guy Pat. And he had hiked the AT, I think, back in the 80s, like early 80s, and then the PCT, like early 80s. So, man, he had such amazing stories, man. I was able to just gain a wealth of knowledge from this guy, really good guy. And he was hiking, when I met him on the AT, he was doing the ECT, actually. And so he had started down there at the Florida Trail. And so by the time he met me up in Shenandoah, man, he was like 800, 900 miles past me. He'd been out there. He was wearing a kilt and everything. Mm-hmm. Oh, man. Yeah, he's a character. But so I was able to, kind of stay around him all the way up. And I was able to hike with him in Maine and everything. Just a cool thing. But like the stories that he would tell me from before technology kicked in, like amazing stories.
I love hearing about that stuff.
A lot of it, I don't know if he was even telling me the truth because he just the way he like spoke, So, but he's like, yeah, when I hiked the CDT, I wouldn't pay for no hotel room. I just break into people's houses, just stay there. They gone for the winter. I just stay in there. Are you serious? Or are you kidding me?
No. Oh boy.
He's like, yeah, I just leave a little tip in there. I broke your window. Sorry, no problems. And I don't know if I probably shouldn't have told that story because people take things literally.
Right. Yeah. So. No, it's fine.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Disclaimer: I'm not getting. Do not do that now.
No, please.
Please don't.
Have you been to trail days?
Any type of breaking and entering.
Have you been to trail days?
Yes. When I was hiking the trail, I went to. I wanted to make it last year, but it got rained out, man, and I don't know.
Yes, it was very rainy.
From the rain. Yeah, I got PTSD, man.
Did you have a chance to meet Gene Espy while you were there?
I don't think so. I think I would remember that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Who is Gene?
So for the benefit of listeners or people who don't know, Gene Espy was the second person to ever thru hike the AT and currently the oldest living thru hiker. I think he did the trail in what was 1954.
Whoa.
Yeah. Right after, I think at the time he did it, people still didn't know that Earl Schaefer had done it yet. So for a while there, he thought he was the first. That was how few people had hiked back then. But the reason I mention him is because he shows up at trail days often, which by the way, I think you should too, as do people in the chat if you're reading what they're typing. But Gene Espy makes appearances at trail days and other hiking events like the Kickoff, and like he always tells stories about what it was like hiking in 1954, where he literally like you just said, he didn't break into people's houses, but like he'd sleep in someone's barn, or like just find a comfy tree to lean up against because there weren't shelters, or and all of his gear was really interesting too. He had a gasoline powered headlamp.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds dangerous.
I'd be comfortable with that. Heck.
Yeah. One pair of, I think, Army issue wool socks.
Wow.
And all of his gear is still in the AT museum right now too. If you're into history, that's all there too. But yeah, Gene's an interesting guy. I love hearing about, people's hikes from back in the day.
See, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier, how people came way stronger than us. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't think I could do it with that.
No,
so much tougher.
Yeah.
So much tougher.
That brings up a thing a comment that I wanted to make that I think ties this, the hiking and the Underground Railroad thing together. Megan and I had conversations about this on the trail, and I'm convinced that, at least hundreds, if not, thousands of thru hikers have had this same thought. You have all day to just think about everything. Your mind just goes all these crazy places. And Megan and I would talk about what must it have been like, in the Civil War to you basically you walk 1,000 miles, but then you get there and you have to fight, and you're carrying a heavy wooden rifle and wearing wool, and your boots suck, and half of your platoon has malaria, and we didn't get the Snickers that have the little creamy thing in them. Remember how hard that was?
Yeah.
I remember how we suffered that microwave pizza wasn't quite the way we like it. It really puts things in perspective. When you think about historically people traveling such long distances on foot and usually under duress. They're not on vacation. They're either being chased or escaping something or on their way to fight. And, it really was such a different time, and we're so lucky, and we need to think more about just the difference. Right. The difference.
Think about Romans. They were walking in metal.
Yeah.
Think about walking and like traipsing across like countries in metal, like cold metal. Like, wow, like, that's different.
For real.
Yeah. We all gotta take a minute sometimes to check our privilege.
Yeah, we crying because our signal is not working or our pack is not adjusted right at the permit. It's like, pick your battles, man.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So Ma Tucker's got a lot of questions in the chat, which is good. She's the one who suggested that you make an appearance at Trail Days next year. And if you're interested in doing that, we can put you in touch with, the right people. If you want to talk if you want to talk about anything, I'm sure it would be a hit.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to make it. If I can make it, I'm gonna be there.
Okay.
I don't care if it's raining or not. I'll just give me an umbrella, whatever.
Okay. And if you want to, just go, just go to hang out, or if you want to go and actually, like have some people sit and watch you tell stories, or, I don't know if you want to share videos or presentations about this trip or whatever, but we can work on that. Okay. I'll cut that out. We don't need to put that on the air.
Hey, you can stay here if you want.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. That's Crazy Larry. There we go.
Yeah, you can stay over here, man.
You got to watch out at Crazy Larry's, though. There's a hole in the wall in the shower where a hand occasionally pokes through.
It ain't in my house.
What?
Sir, buddy. We don't play that shit.
All right, so
I've heard some stories about the trail though back whenever I was hiking.
I'm so glad that Larry has started joining our calls. This is great. Okay, so Ma Tucker asks, did you find hiking the AT an emotional and psychological challenge? Having all of that alone time could really wear on a person.
Yes and no. I love being alone, man. I really do. Like, I enjoy being in my own space, like, cause I know what I'm going to do. I don't know what anyone else is going to do. and I don't want to have those variables around me. So it's great to be alone because that gives you time to think, and it gives you time to try to find yourself and figure it out. Even though I'm still figuring myself out, but I know a little bit more about myself now that I'm done with the AT. So it's definitely psychological and emotional because any day you really can go home. Any day you really can pick up and say, all right, I'm done. So it's definitely any long distance, anything challenging, I think is totally mental. Your body is going to do what your brain tells it to do, as long as it's able. Unless you're physically just injured, you can keep going. And I just saw so many people like they get that thought in their head, and once that seed is planted, oh man, 3-4 days they going home. So yeah, it's definitely all mental. It's all mental. Even this trip right here is just all mental. You can always go home because it's not like you was talking about people being marched to war and all that. It's under arrest. You can't just go home. You're gonna be a deserter. They coming to get you. You're going to jail or they're gonna hang you or something. So you can always go home on this. So it's like, yeah, your mind has to be right. But when you think about the fact that everybody is like at their 9 to 5 or somewhere hating their life, and you just on the side of the road in Alabama somewhere, just with no worries in the world besides where I'm going to sleep tonight and what I'm going to eat, it gets simpler. So it's not hard to me.
So this is a question I've been asking everyone lately. What do you wish you had known before your first long distance hike?
That's a pretty good question. Man, what I wish I would know. To be honest, I wish I would have known what I wish I would have known is the fact that cigarettes get so much more expensive the further north you get, because in North Carolina, they're reasonable, but once you get to New York, they're double, and it's like, oh man, I wish I'd have known, because that would have saved me a lot of money.
Stuff up here.
Yeah.
You should be thankful you didn't cross over into Canada because everything's more expensive up there too.
Oh man. So. I can remember hiking about 15 miles through New Jersey to get to Unionville, New York, to make it to the post office before the post office closed to pick up cigarettes. And that's when I knew I had a problem. And I also knew cigarettes were way too expensive.
At least we're not like the, I don't know if you guys can say at least, but the UK way of scaring people away, it's by putting horrible pictures on the packages.
Oh man, somebody was sending me those from Jamaica, I think, and they were terrible. I was like, yeah, I don't see how people smoke over here, because it's like a picture of like a deformed like infant.
Yeah, it's just, because in the U.S. we're a capitalist society. We try to scare people away by making things more expensive, but over there they do it with visuals, with pictures of horrifying things like black lungs and stuff. So
yeah,
would you like a pack of collapsed lung or throat hole menthols?
But hey, to a smoker, hey, whatever. Give me the pack.
Oh man. All right, this is my last question, and then anyone else can ask whatever they like. But I'm in this article that I found about you that's on the Trek. I'll just read you the title. The Blackalachian, first gold-mouth rapper to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
Okay, so gold-mouth rapper has definitely got my attention. And I've heard you spit bars. You're a rapper. Tell me a little about your music career. How's that going?
Oh man,
I just said spit bars. I'm the whitest guy you've ever met, and I said spit bars.
Yeah, that was bad, Gary. That was really bad.
I heard my niece say that. She's young.
Great. Nah, you was right on point with that one. Well, the music, man, kind of slowed down. Just because the timing. I don't really have time to record, and then also, man, being like creative, I'm not just one of those guys to sit down. I'm just gonna record at this certain time.
Right.
I can't do it like that. So I kind of got to hit it when the inspiration hits me. So I mean, I can go for months without recording, and maybe I get inspiration and I just do 4 or 5 songs. But I mean, at this moment, man, I got so much going on and I'm being pulled in so many different directions. The music might be on the back burner right now. And also shout out to Arnold Guzman, who wrote that Trek wrote the article for the Trek.
Yeah.
I really appreciate him. He drove down from Tennessee to come interview me down here in Charlotte. So I appreciate him taking his time and effort out to do that. He's a great guy. His sister runs what's the hostel down there?
Where?
Oh man, Bears Den, not Bears Den. It's right outside of Hot Springs. The little like Oasis hostel, whatever it is. It's just run by Maria.
Chester's, not even, what's the word, the name I'm thinking of?
Oh man, I can't think of, but it's like it's like an Oasis.
Standing Bear, man.
Standing Bear. There we go.
Is it Standing Bear we're talking about? Oh, okay, all right.
Standing Bear, yeah. Mile 240, Standing Bear. His sister Maria runs Standing Bear.
Yeah, Maria.
Yeah, he goes out and does trail magic, trail maintenance all the time. You can follow him on Instagram, I think at Arnold Guzman. I think he's the Backcountry Trail Angel. I think that's his name he goes by.
Yeah, pretty good guy.
I really do appreciate him for penning that article on me, because that put me on a lot of people's radar, and he does a lot in the hiking community. So just wanted to give him a shout out.
All right, and if people want to hear what you've already recorded, is there someplace we can go? Do you have a SoundCloud or?
Oh yeah. You can go to SoundCloud.com/logo704 LOGO704. I will warn you, it's going to be explicit. Man, I done did a lot of growth in these past 2 years. I'll be listening to my music now, and I'm like, wow, like wow, it's a lot of growth. So, I mean, expect real hardcore rap if you go there. If you're not really a fan of hardcore rap and lyrics and bars and cussing and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't advise you to go there. But other than that, yeah, enjoy.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I really am.
I appreciate it.
I went through a phase. I think it was 2 summers ago. When did the movie Straight Outta Compton come out?
It's about 2 years ago.
It was about 2 years ago. And there was a lot of Oscar buzz around that movie, and I wanted to see it, but I also wanted to know more about the music. So I just I went to Spotify and I downloaded NWA, and I loved it. Oh man! And I started listening to Dre, and I started listening to Snoop, and then following like that whole, like you just branch out into so many. I went through probably about like a 9-month period where I was just listening, like I'm interested in seeing where I got as far as Wiz Khalifa, and I found Kendrick Lamar to be really challenging to listen to, but I can tell he's doing good things, but it's a little too much.
Kendrick. He's tough. Yeah, Kendrick is tough. It's hard to decipher sometimes, but man, I think that's like the even ground with all cultures, that I feel like that. And I was about to post something on my Instagram about that the other day, just to kind of challenge people to think as far as like music and movies. Like, we are entertainment driven society. And the way that I feel like that we can kind of get some kind of common ground and some understanding of each other is we share like our likes of music. Like, because coming on AT, I was turned on to a lot of music that I wouldn't have been like just listening to. Some of the names I forget, but just a lot of the music, man, you're just not going to listen to, because it's just totally different from you. I didn't know the Grateful Dead was a jam band until maybe a couple months ago. I had no idea, because when you see the logo, you're thinking heavy metal. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay. Cool to see that and hear that, and I'm like, who is this? And they're like, oh, this is Grateful Dead. And I'm like, well, I thought that would be like super hard guitars or something. Just looking at the logo. Or
they've got the word. They're Deadheads, right? Yeah, I could see. Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, just in that and movies, like I learned a lot about different cultures from movies and music, like and just that right there, that getting out your box. That's important, I think, for all of us to get out our box, no matter how old you are, what culture, what color, none of that. We have to get outside our box and understand that. You gotta think outside the box. We close, man. We all got differences. We all different. That's cool. That's fine.
We're all pretty much on the same page here, man.
Yeah.
All right, so check it out. We've got Incubest in the chat. That's our good friend Daniel. Always has a lot of questions, and I promised him that I would give him some microphone time tonight to ask. So just like you warned people about when you go to your SoundCloud, you're gonna hear some some hardcore rap. I need to warn you, Daniel. I have no idea what Daniel's gonna ask you, so just Be ready
Let's go.
for
I'm ready.
I heard him like amp up too. I heard some movement, and I knew he was. Oh, see, there he is.
There you go. Okay.
No, don't be scared.
This is a new segment on Stories from the Trail. It's called Speed Round with Daniel. Ready?
Gary gets nervous about Daniel's question.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Why aren't Black people doing the stuff that you do? What is holding them back, in your opinion?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I think
because I'm sorry, and I want to just say this quick because I remember a Chris Rock special one time, and he'd be like, "Man, white folks, they go out, they go skiing, they go hiking. Black folks, we just being black. It's hard enough just being black." I don't know if you ever heard that or not.
Yeah, but that's. I mean, that has a lot of truth to it. Because like, man, you worried about just like making it through the day, which I'm not saying that other people aren't. I'm just saying that just from my experience, yeah, that has a lot to do with it. I don't know, because like we just don't. I'm not gonna say all Black people, because there's plenty of Black people that do outdoor stuff. You have outdoor Afro, you have brown girls climb, you have Black next hikers, you got all these organizations.
Yeah, I saw a group when I was in Chattanooga, and it was a bunch of group. It was like, I don't know, it was about 40 people on Lookout Mountain. And I was like, oh, this is so cool! Finally, you know, because I love traveling and I love different cultures, and I love, you know, I love being around different kinds of people, and so you know. It just gives me, I don't know, it's just more exposure to different things and the way they do different things, you know, stuff like that. Because, like, you know, when I was in I don't want to try to make this about me, but like when I was in the post office, I worked on the west side of Atlanta, and that's all Black. And I was the only white guy in the post office. But like the way that y'all's community, it's just tight. Like people would offer me food. They would give me like, they would be having barbecues. They'd give me plates. They'd give me beer. Like so nice. Gosh, how is this such a shitty part of town? But these people are so nice. Okay, sorry.
But
about
it's different though, because see, like Black folks, we show love on that level as far as like, you know, making sure you straight and not like that type of stuff. But see, like more like Caucasian white folks, y'all show love on business. Y'all get each other right on business. And that's what, you know, like, and y'all encourage each other. But it's just things that has been placed in this society that's above all of us that I think, you know, it's just like, you know, the upper class, you know, class systems exist, man, and they exist for a reason, and they thrive for a reason, and they thrive. The reason is they divide people. You know, when we put each other class, like I hate the word redneck as much as I hate the N-word, because the simple fact it puts the people in a group and it boxes them in just by the way that they look. They may look, but the coolest people that people maybe would classify as like a redneck or a hick or something like that, I find them to be the coolest people, and they like me. They just had different circumstances growing up. So you know, I hate those terms that pigeonhole and boxing in type of thing, but I don't know. I think that a lot of people, I wouldn't just say Black, but I would say like poor people don't really do a lot of outdoor activity because it costs a little bit. You know what I mean? It costs for that. It costs for a tent. For a good tent, it costs you. For a good gear, it costs you. And for people not to know anything about that activity, they're not going to go spend that money on that activity. They're going to go for what they know. They're going to go for the familiar. So that's why I think a lot of poor people and Black people included just don't do outdoor stuff because they don't know enough about it. It's not enough exposure, and it's like an extracurricular, you know. Car insurance. Car insurance gonna cover your car. It's not gonna cover your ATV. You know what I mean? So it's like your priorities. When you're a poor person, not saying that all Black people are poor or nothing like that. That's what I'm telling you. There's groups that exist that do hike and do outdoor stuff, but as a majority, it's just that most people are just worried about the day-to-day. And that goes for all Americans, because the American dream used to be, you know, a couple acres, wife, you know, a couple kids, 2.5 kids, and a picket fence. But now the American dream is making it through to Friday. The American dream is switched. It's like, man, can I make it to Friday? to get out to the club or go do this. You know, like people are like just like scrambling. I think that it's more than the black thing. I think it's more of society that we all have lost focus of the American dream. We all have lost focus of the people that came before us, how strong they were and how much they worked to get us where we are now. And we just I don't know. I don't know if we spoiled or what. I think it's a lot to do with we spoiled.
It seems to be a theme tonight.
Don't go out.
Yeah.
You know?
And now you mentioned exposure as a reason that maybe different groups of people are not getting out into the wilderness, just a lack of exposure, whether it be due to the where they live or what economic class they're in or what race they are. Is that, and we talked about exposure and your exposure in social media, is that maybe one of the reasons that you're doing this, or one of the driving forces behind, continuing to get out there and produce those videos and kind of be a public figure?
Definitely. And not just for black people, just for everybody to be like, yo, it's okay to sit at home and watch TV, but get your butt outside one time because it's free. It's free to get out there. When I pull in my house into this to my community, I get here about 6:30, right when like the sun is getting down when I get off work, and it's the most beautiful sight. Before I hit the AT, I never even looked at the sun. I never looked at the sky because I was so worried about just day to day, 9 to 5, rigmarole. What can I do? What can I do? This. But now I'm stopping and look like, wow, that's a beautiful sunset. Like those little moments right there keep you sane. They keep you, man. You just don't know how important those little moments are. It's like even like when people tell me, "Oh man, you inspire," and things like that. That helps me. It probably helps them. And so it's just an exchange of energy. We have to exchange energy. We just a big ball of energy that happens to materialize into a body at one time. But when we're done with this body, we go back into that energy. It's never lost. It's merely transferred. So we have to always keep that in mind. Like you just a ball of energy just happened to come together into a body. So you should enjoy it while you can and enjoy everything around it and stop getting caught up in that dollar bill. That dollar bill is something serious, man. But it's like a catch-22 because you got to get caught in the dollar bill because it's the society, because you can't survive without that dollar bill. So you need just enough of the dollar bill and a little bit more of that nature. That's just my opinion.
I like that.
If people want to see what you're sharing and learn from you or just have fun with you, where can they go?
Man, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook at the Blackalachian, YouTube at the Blackalachian. I'll be getting those videos up as soon as possible. Man, I've been back on my electrician thing full grind, so I ain't have a chance to get the videos out yet. But as soon as I get a chance to get them out, I'm working on them now.
Well, there's
I'll get them out, but
a ton of videos already up there too, so there's plenty to do while you're waiting for Daniel to edit.
Yeah, man. You want to go see me dancing or rapping or singing or whatever? Yeah, go on to YouTube, man. You can find me there. Or I show out on my Instagram stories sometimes. And we'll go from there. But
you rap your own theme song?
Yeah, rap my own theme song, man. I rap my own theme song. Got to edit my own videos. I got to do everything, man.
I should rap my own theme song.
You know?
God.
Megan, give me a beat.
Spit some bars.
Every episode is a bonus episode when you're listening to stories from the trail.
One thing that I do worse than dancing, and it's rapping.
Dancing and rapping? Nah, man, you just got to get your
dropping
hands
beats.
Right.
There will be none of that.
Megan, you drop some beats while I
See, you got to hang around me a little more. I get your delivery right and everything. I get you ready.
I could use that, to be honest. I just cannot whatsoever. It's a sad attempt.
Can you yodel too?
We trade off. We trade off. I teach you how to rap. You teach me something. You know what I'm saying? We trade off. I'm teaching. As a matter of fact, I'm working with a guy from Brazil right now. I'm teaching him English. He teaching me Portuguese. So it's a trade off. Never stop learning. Once again,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
Daniel Blackalachian, you're a hell of a guy, man. Really glad that we got the chance to talk.
Good interview.
Definitely, man. I appreciate you all for having me. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Crazy Larry, when I'm up in Damascus, I'm gonna definitely stop by and swing through.
Come on in.
You know, and man, definitely, this was great, man. This is great, man. I like this. I like this.
It's better now that you're here. We tried this.
I'm gonna have to join these every week, man. If I get a chance, I'm gonna join these every week. I like y'all conversation. I like it.
Do.
Okay.
Stories from the Trail is a production of thetrek.co. Zach Davis, editor-in-chief. Your hosts are me, Gary Sizer, Green Giant, and Megan Thompson, known as Voldemort. Our music, as always, is by Lee Rosevere. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to the show. If you'd like to join us for our live recordings, it's free. Find out how by following us on Instagram or Facebook, where we'll post a link each week. And if you can't make it to the live recordings, just keep listening to the show. We'll be releasing them. If you don't want to wait 2 weeks for me to edit one, the raw audio is released immediately after each recording for all of our patrons who support the show for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/storiesfromthetrail. The show is recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Gary Sizer, here at Blanket Fort Studios, which is just me and my blanket with a basement over my head. What? Thanks for listening.
If you want, bop, boop, 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 boop.